articles since, as many of us know, or maybe you know, I don't know, the serial killer Samuel Little recently passed away a few days ago in prison. And Samuel Little is a very, very interesting man, to put it like that. Now, I've thought many times, and maybe I will, maybe that'll be like a Patreon exclusive, to go over the Samuel Little story, but it is egregious and long, and I also feel like, I feel like it's one that many of us probably already know a lot about, but again, that doesn't stop me from like talking about things like Richard Ramirez and stuff. But let me know if you guys want a Samuel Little video. I guess that's basically what I'm trying to say. Is that absolutely necessary? Sorry about that. I actually wonder if that's my fiance. I'm gonna be like, you ruined my video. Just kidding. Alright, so I figured that we would talk about a couple of his articles. I wanted to read one from the, well, not his articles, but articles about Samuel Little. Now, this one talks about like his crimes and things like that, so this kind of gives you a really short synopsis of a little bit about him, and then I figured that I would read an article that was posted the day he passed away. So this is from the New York Times, and it is titled, "Samuel Little is the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history, FBI says." Sorry, the sun is really coming through this window right now. And then the subtitle says, "Mr. Little, 79, has confessed to 93 murders, and the agency believes all of his confessions are credible." And then there is a released photo from the FBI of 5 sketches that Samuel Little actually did himself of just some of the unidentified women he says he has killed, and their locations, which range from New Orleans, Las Vegas, Miami, Kentucky, and Little Rock, Arkansas. This article was published on October 7th, 2019, and actually was updated December 11th, 2020, and it was written by Timothy Williams and Karen Zraic. After years of painstaking investigation into the grisly confessions of a graying man in a wheelchair inside a Los Angeles County prison cell, the FBI announced on Sunday that Samuel Little, who had admitted to strangling vulnerable women across the country for decades, is the most prolific known serial killer in American history. Mr. Little, 79, has confessed to 93 murders, the FBI said. The agency said in a statement that it had verified 50 of the killings and that it believed all of his confessions are credible. Now, the FBI is looking for help identifying the rest of his victims. A task force, it says, is all the more urgent because of Mr. Little's age, poor health, and sometimes faulty memory. Over the weekend, the agency asked for the assistance from the public after releasing 5 sketches that Mr. Little had drawn of women he claimed to have killed, with more information about where he met each one. After Mr. Little was approached by a Texas Ranger seeking information about 18 months ago, he had confessed last name, Christy Palazzolo, an FBI crime analyst, said in a statement. Even though he is already in prison, the FBI believes it is important to seek justice for each and every victim to close every case possible. Mr. Little has been convicted of at least 8 murders, including several he confessed to. Prosecutors around the country are still weighing whether to formally charge him for killings. It was uncertain how many charges that he will ultimately face. No one representing Mr. Little could be reached for comment. And it says that this is where they kind of compare him to Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, who was convicted of 49 murders in Washington state during the 1980s and 1990s, the highest number of murder convictions for an American serial killer. Mr. Little was arrested dozens of times for crimes including armed robbery, rape, and kidnapping as he traveled around the country, drifting through the poor neighborhoods and transient communities. But until 2014, he served fewer than 10 years in prison, avoiding a murder conviction. In addition to his prison cell conversations with law enforcement officials, Mr. Little has drawn dozens of detailed portraits of his victims, sketching them in chalk pastels. Over 45 years, he targeted marginalized women. Sorry, I have hair in my mouth. Including prostitutes, drug users, the authorities say, and most of them were African American women. He often knew their first names or their nicknames. The FBI noted that many of the deaths of Mr. Little victims had originally been ruled as overdoses or from accidental or unknown causes. In other cases, the women went missing and their bodies were never found, but their cases drew little attention. When Mr. Little had offered, while Mr. Little had offered many details, investigators fear that his memory is becoming not entirely reliable. He is often fuzzy on the year a killing took place. That can make matching his version of events to local police records challenging, and help from the public is even more essential. Among the 5 new sketches released to the public, one depicts a transgender woman named Mary Ann that Mr. Little met in Miami in 1971 or 1972. Mr. Little said she was 18 or 19 years old and they met at a bar. He offered her a ride home in his gold Pontiac Le Mans, I think that's how you say that, then drove to what might have been a sugarcane field near Highway 27 where he killed her, according to the authorities. In a series of videotape confessions and interviews, Mr. Little from a prison cell. Oh my god, let me start that over. Whoa. In a series of videotaped interviews with Mr. Little from a prison cell that were released by the FBI this week, Mr. Little became visibly excited as he discussed the killings. Asked by a detective about a woman he said he killed in North Little Rock, Arkansas in 1994, Mr. Little responded, "Oh man, I loved her. I forgot her name. Oh yeah, I think it was Ruth." You should watch that video. It's really, again, interesting fella. The flood of confessions came after James Holland, a Texas Ranger who specialized in cold cases, sought out Mr. Little last year. Nothing he's ever said has been proven wrong or false, Holland told 60 Minutes in a segment. "We've been able to prove up almost everything he said." In the videotaped interviews released by the FBI, Mr. Little spoke about the killings as if they were ordinary events, frequently interrupting his stories with smiles and laughter. His recollections were full of detail, often including the names of streets and the clothing of his victims. He expressed no remorse. And then it ends with a quote that he told a detective from Marion County, Florida. And Samuel Little said, "God put me on earth to do browsing for you guys. There we go. And it is again from the New York Times, and it possibly might be a little repetitive, but not much. Again, let me know if I should do like a full Samuel Little moment for you guys. Samuel Little, serial killer who confessed to 93 murders, dies at 80. At least 50 of those murders were verified by law enforcement officers, according to the FBI, which declared Mr. Little the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. Now, this was written on the day of his death by Neil Victor from the New York Times. Samuel Little, who surpassed even such lethal predators as Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy to become the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history while going undetected for decades, which is insane, died at a Los Angeles area hospital on Wednesday. California corrections officers said he was 80 years old. No cause of death had yet to be determined for Mr. Little, who was serving a life sentence at a state prison in Los Angeles County since 2014 for the murders of 3 women in South Los Angeles during the 1980s. There was no sign of foul play in connection with Mr. Little's death. Vicki Waters, a spokeswoman for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, said in an email on Wednesday night. The Associated Press reported that Mr. Little had diabetes, heart trouble, and other unspecified ailments. And clearly, in that last article that we read, FBI investigators knew that they were kind of fighting time, and they're still frantically trying to get justice for these women. There's so many that do not have justice still. Mr. Little had confessed to having committed 93 murders between 1970 and 2005, at least 50 of which were verified by law enforcement. He had been convicted of at least 8, which were solved using DNA analysis. Many of Mr. Little's victims were marginalized young black women who were estranged from their families and struggling with poverty and addiction. In many cases, their deaths did not draw the same level of attention or outrage as other killings. No shit, that's literally, like, that's why he got away with it. They were like, a black man killing black women. And that's fucked up, as we all know. So, only in recent years did Mr. Little confess to the killings from a prison cell in California, his 3rd stint in a state prison. He said that he had strangled his victims, many of whose death had originally been ruled overdoses or accidents by the FBI. The recounting of his crimes came after a Texas Ranger seeking information approached Mr. Little. Last year, the FBI formally declared Mr. Little the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history and sought the public's assistance. We read that one. In connecting him to dozens of murders to which he had confessed. The FBI posted a series of chilling confessional videos featuring Mr. Little on its website along with the sketches. For many years, Samuel Little believed he would not be caught because he thought that no one was accounting for his victims. Again, that's what Christy Palazzo, the crime analyst, had said. And this is where he talks about Ruth again, which we talked about earlier. And it ends, the article ends with the number of murders to which Mr. Little confessed substantially surpassed those of well-known serial killers Gary Ridgway, Mr. Bundy, Mr. Gacy. So yeah, there's, if you go online, I mean, you could just Google Samuel Little and have a look at all the sketches. These are sketches that he did too. I can't tell if my nose is leaking or, no, I think video. Really, really interesting. Take a look at some of those interviews. He speaks so like fondly of the memories of these people, like, oh, we had a good time, everything was cool, like, oh yeah, I loved them and then I killed them. He's a really, really, really interesting human, and of course I think a lot of those interviews and confessions could be kind of tied into I think he was experiencing some like dementia and some like other issues. It's just very weird, and the fact that he went undetected for so long, and you know, we clearly know why that is, and there are still 40 plus women that have not been identified, and their families do not have justice. They do not have justice. So, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for listening, for listening, for listening, for listening, for listening, for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know about any future cases. Come join us over at Patreon, where there will be two. My wrist keeps cracking. 2 to 3. Sorry, my phone's vibrating. 2 to 3 cases where they will not be posted on YouTube. So if you want to watch those, you gotta come over to Patreon. I love you guys. I thank you guys. I thank you. And also, you can also click down below and buy me a coffee or a book. I have a list of true crime books that I'm looking to acquire for some readings, for some research, and other things for the channel. As you can tell, I love books. Alright. I appreciate you guys.